Good morning, members. We have reached the appointed hour with a quorum. The meeting of the panel on environmental affairs is now called to order. This is the 7th day of the Lunar New Year. May I wish you every success and good health. And this is everybody's birthday, and I hope you get a good birthday present from the Financial Secretary. We have quite a long agenda today. Time is rather tight. I therefore have to limit your time of questioning and receiving answers. Confirmation minutes. Item 1. Minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of December 2014. I have not received any proposed amendment, so I propose the minutes be confirmed. Thank you. Item 2. Information papers issued since the last meeting. There are 2. The first one, a letter dated the 10th of February 2015 from Dr. Kenneth on impacts of large-scale infrastructure projects in sea transport and marine ecology. If there is no objection, I will put this on the list of outstanding items for discussion to be followed up. Another paper is a referral from the Public Accounts Committee on issues relating to the monitoring and reporting of air quality and the implementation of air quality improvement measures. And we will discuss that later. Please take note. And when we come to discuss this item, it will be a reference, and also it will be an item to be followed up. If there is no objection, we move on. Item 3. Items for discussion at the next meeting. Please refer to the list of follow-up actions and list of outstanding items for discussion. The administration proposed to discuss 3 items at the next meeting, which is the policy briefing on environmental initiative in connection with budget speech. Number 2, progress of 3 low-emission zones. And 3, upgrading of Saiwan sewage treatment works. There will be 3 items for discussion. Any other suggestions? If not, then we will discuss these 3 items. The date is 23rd of March, 2:30 p.m. We now come to the meat of the matter today, and that is item 4, extension of the Cleaner Production Partnership Program, or CPPP in short. May I invite officials into the room first? I will ask the officials to introduce the paper, and then there will be time for members to ask questions. Please note that we have been receiving letters from the major chambers of commerce in Hong Kong, and they express their support for this program. And there is also a letter which has just been tabled. It's by the Federation of Industries, and please take note of that. The Undersecretary, if you have settled down, would you like to take us through the paper? Is it really necessary to introduce a paper, really? We started to have this program in 2008-9. It is a regular program. And recently we came before this council and made an explanation. If there is no need, then shall members ask questions? Oh, are they ready? The other 2 officials attending the meeting are Mr. Lai of Mr. Lai, DDEP, and Mrs. Alison Lau, ADDEP. 4 minutes each for members. Questions and answers together. Christopher Chong and Lo Wai Kwok. Christopher Chong, 4 minutes. Good morning, Chairman. I have a question for this scheme. There are 1,500 manufacturers who are benefited. What is the proportion of the area covered? How many manufacturers among 1,500, or rather 1,500 among how many are benefited? Now, some manufacturers, Hong Kong manufacturers, are moving to other countries. Is there any improvement to air quality? If there is any improvement to the reduction of chemicals, is it the result of moving our way rather than because of the CPPEP? Mr. Lai, thank you for the question. As for the coverage, the CPPP is available for all Hong Kong investors who invest in factories in the mainland. There may be 50 or 60,000 such factories funded by Hong Kong investors. So 1,500 may be a small number. But the scheme is not to help each and every Hong Kong-funded manufacturer. We are to introduce new environmental technology to the manufacturers so that they can make use of their own resources and capability to adopt such environment-friendly technology. That is related to Mr. Chong's question as well. When we assess the outcome, we don't just look at the supported items and the reduction in emission. We put emphasis on promotion. We have 300 more seminars, and we want to bring the experience to many manufacturers. These so-called demonstrative items may not need government funding. The rate of recovery is about 1 to 2 years, and there is incentive for the manufacturers to adopt such technology. As for improvement to the air quality, this CPPP has helped to enhance the awareness of keeping the environment clean. In the past few years, Guangdong provincial government and the state government have been enhancing the environmental standards, and this scheme helps a lot in raising awareness. The Guangdong provincial government has also done a lot in terms of control on vehicles, vessels, and factories, and has helped to improve regional air quality. According to what you say, it seems all well and good. But you do need a benchmark to measure whether you have achieved what you have attempted to achieve. You just say that you've improved the ideology, said the speaker. You have stepped up education, you've enhanced the awareness towards the environment. But that is too vague. Do you have an emission reduction target? Has the target been reached? Is the target achieved because of upgrading and transformation or because of the moving out of the factories? Is it because all participated and therefore emission is reduced? Do you have the numbers? The DD, do you have the relevant numbers? Thank you, Mr. Zhong, for the question. You may refer to paragraph 8. We have provided the contribution to reduction of emissions and discharge. We have been working, we have a longitudinal study. We've invested about $140 million. Apart from reducing emission and discharge, their production cost has also been reduced by 1.7 billion. There is a profit incentive to do that. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. I and my party supports the extension of the CPPP. I have been in the trade for many years. I have the experience of working with the HKPC, Productivity Council, on the promotion of technology. I've also witnessed the achievement of this program. Apart from the direct benefits arising for the participants, there are also external externalities. Those factories that do not participate are also benefited, and it is very effective. But we do need to pay attention to this. Starting from 1st of January, the country has published is amended Environmental Act. That is the biggest amendment since 1989. That is the toughest Environmental Act since so far. And with regard to the publicity of this and the concern by the trade, that is not enough. I have a seminar. I ran a seminar at the end of last year and invited the officials involved in the amendment to explain that to the local investors. At that time, members of the trade had, for the first time, a better understanding of the Environmental Act. If you can achieve, that's business opportunity. If you can't achieve, it may force your factory to close down. We really need to enhance environment technology. And we need to inform the Hong Kong investors on the Environmental Act and its liabilities. To put it simply, if you can do it well, you can have business opportunity. If you can't do it well, then you may have to take serious legal liabilities. And that's what the operators should be concerned of.
Now I'll ask you questions. Well, this program covers the Pearl River Delta, Hong Kong enterprises, Hong Kong-owned factories in the Guangdong province. But a lot of these factories have moved out of Pearl River Delta to somewhere else. If they really want to participate in this program, would you consider lifting the geographical limitations? Because when it comes to emission reduction, it's not just about the Pearl River Delta and Hong Kong-owned factories. There are still similar challenges in other provinces. And the scope should be widened, not just about environmental protection, because our country has already spoken about being friendly to resources and friendly to the environment. Undersecretary, from what I've heard, Mr. Low said that basically the program covers Guangdong and Hong Kong. And in the past, a lot of the applicants indeed were located in Guangdong. But now, well, and that is the case in the past. But if it is to be extended to outside Guangdong province, it will involve significant change in our policy. We focused in the Guangdong province because it would have a significant impact on our regional air quality. And if it is to be expanded, this will be a significant policy change. So far, I'm not able to give you an answer. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, it's mentioned that for the new phase, well, service providers has conducted on-site improvement assessments to 625 factories. And what are these service providers? And how did you select the 625 factories? Deputy Director. Yes, I thank Mr. Wong for his question. When it comes to the environmental technology service providers, well, we would like to make use of this program to first help factories, secondly, to provide more business opportunities for these service providers, and thirdly, to protect the environment. So under the program, we asked environmental technology service providers, say for example for effectiveness assessment and emission reduction, then factories receiving the subsidy under the program may procure services from these service providers. Currently, there are about 190 of such service providers. Half of them are Hong Kong-owned enterprises, and the other half Guangdong province enterprises. When it comes to the procurement of service, the factories, say it's a toy factory or a furniture factory, if they are to apply under the program, then they will have their own tender exercise to select a contractor from our list. So when it comes to the 190 service providers, how do you make sure that they will provide effective service? We're also concerned about the service quality, and there are a number of factors that we will consider. They should have a clean record, i.e. no non-compliance. And when there are complaints, and if we find that there are problems with service quality, they will be delisted. We have such a mechanism, and it has happened before when it comes to factories under the program. When they are delisted, then the factories under the program will not be able to choose them. When it comes to Hong Kong service providers, it will be easier for you to regulate them because they're close. But what about those in Guangdong province? How do you regulate them? You appoint people from the bureau to conduct inspections, or through your Guangdong ETO. I think the term regulate is too heavy. It's to help Hong Kong-owned factories to use better technologies to improve their operation. So it's for the reference of these factories. And as to what companies or providers they actually choose, is up to them. And of course, after every project is completed, we require the factory to submit us a report. We'll look at the report, and if we found that there are problems with the service provider, we will use the listing mechanism. Mr. Tam Yu-chung. Well, for this extension is just for the extension of the program for another 5 years for an amount of $150 million. $150 million itself is very small. And, well, for the sake of our air quality and water quality, is well worth it. But sometimes if we read documents, there is not enough information and we'd like to know more. Hong Kong-owned factories situated on the mainland are subject to relevant legislation, say, for example, discharge of sewerage and emission. So they already have adopted practices to meet these requirements. And the program is to help them. And I think that it boils down to that. So funding is given to them, and they have adopted different practices. Well, can we improve the effectiveness? In reply to Mr. Christopher Jones' question, you said that there is a table showing the 5 types of pollutants and the reduction volume of the different years. But looking at the table itself, we don't fully understand what are the specific requirements. Can you elaborate on the effectiveness, that is, the improvement in air quality and water quality in Hong Kong and Guangdong? Because we don't know fully how effective it is. Undersecretary, Mr. Lai will supplement. Well, this table shows the overall picture with the different cases. But when it comes to individual items, if I give you examples of just a few cases, say factory A, after using the technology, how many months it takes to recover cost. In some cases is within 1 year, and for other cases maybe 1 or 2 years. And they can also see how much energy they have saved. And these are exemplary cases, and we've explained very clearly in the paper, and there's also a main point under the program. And if another factory engages in a similar production, then the factory will be able to see that if they adopt this technology, this will be the outcome. We would like other factories, having seen the result, will consider to adopt these technologies. Of course, for some other factories, they might have already adopted the technologies themselves, but we won't be able to check the effectiveness for these factories because they are not under the program. But what we show is that, say, for factory A, after adopting the technology, they have gained a lot and is really attractive. And we will disseminate the information through publicity campaigns. I'll defer to the Deputy Director, Mr. Lai. Let me give you some examples. Well, people are very concerned about smog. Smog is a result of some reaction with the light with the VOC. So we are very concerned about emission reduction of VOC, volatile organic carbon. Well, we have been promoting a fully automated vacuum device to reduce the emission of VOC. Say, for example, a toy factory, after adopting the technology, every year 79 tons of VOC emission is reduced, and the paints are more focused. So the use of paint has been reduced by 42%. We're talking about 12 million renminbi every year of cost saved. The investment of the technology itself is only $3 million. So this will be a leading example to inject confidence into the trade. And for other factories, looking at the maths, they might consider adopting the technology, even though they don't apply under the program. Any other members who would like to ask questions? Mr. Chen Kim-po. Apparently, this is a very good program. And I see that there are some new initiatives after the extension, on-site improvement assessments and demonstration projects, etc. Well, we're talking about $330,000 for the demonstration project. Is it enough? And you are going to build a data bank about clean production. Well, I believe that there is something similar on the mainland, but how do you make sure that it will be effective? And there will be some new posts created. Well, actually, if this is effective, then it will be a favorable condition to operate on the mainland, because it will be seen by the mainland authorities at conditions of environmental protection met, and this will give rise to lots of business opportunities. Well, you may be able to tap these opportunities, say, for example, working with certification and testing organizations on the mainland. So would you be able to give us more information in this regard? I thank Mr. Chen for his questions. When it comes to use of resources, of course, we would like to maximize the $150 million. When we adjust the amount of the subsidy, we have taken taken into consideration increase in wages and also appreciation of renminbi. So when it comes to individual projects and the ceiling of the subsidy, we have increased by about 15%. 2 years ago, when we launched the last extension, we have increased the amount of subsidy by 50 to 100%. And this time around, we increase it by 10%, and it will be effective. Mr. Chan is right. Just like what Mr. Christopher Chung said, there are tens of thousands of Hong Kong-owned factories in Guangdong province, but we only help about 600 or so. Of course, it's a small number. But what we aim at is to have more successful cases and build up our data so that other factories will be able to take the initiative to take up the technology. There is a new item under this extension. We will also subsidize some trade associations so that the program will be further promoted. Say for a certain trade, say furniture, the trade association will promote our program, and it will be more effective. And when it comes to the program itself, just like I said, it's not just to help Hong Kong-owned factories to upgrade and restructure so that they will better meet the requirements of national requirements. And Hong Kong's environmental industry is also an industry where we enjoy an advantage. We would like to get into the mainland market through this program. I would like to ask a supplementary question. Is it the case that if they adopt the technology, they will be able to meet the national requirements? Will you be able to kill two birds with one stone? Well, under the program, the technologies will enable the factories to more than meet the national requirements. So it's not just to meet the basic requirements, statutory requirements. It's one step forward. There will be new technologies available to meet these requirements. As Mr. Liu said that, these requirements will be enhanced from time to time, and you will continue to help the factories to catch up with the requirements. Yes, we'll make sure that the factories will be one step ahead.
No other members want to ask further questions. I gather that those who have spoken have expressed their support towards extending the CPPP. I propose to endorse this paper. Let's move on. Agenda item number 5. Refurbishment and upgrading of Sha Tin Transfer Station. The Undersecretary, Ms. Christine Low, will stay with us. The DDEP, Mr. Chan, is with us. And Dr. Ellen Chan, ADEP, is with us. And there is also Mr. Chen Chi Kwong, PEPO. I will invite the officials to introduce the paper. And then members will have 4 minutes for questions and answers. I'd like to remind you that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in respect of this item, please declare interest according to ROP 83A before you speak. The DDEP, Mr. Howard Chen. Thank you, Chairman. The paper seeks to get member support for applying for $137.5 million for the refurbishment and upgrading of Sha Tin Transfer Station, STTS. The majority of STTs in different districts are rather old, and most of them have been refurbished and upgraded. Among the large transfer stations, there are two which have yet to be refurbished. One is Sha Tin, the other is Lam Tay, and we will make an application for Lam Tay later. They were built in the 1990s. They have been used for more than 20 years. They need refurbishment and upgrading. The transfer station in Sha Tin was built in 1994. It has been operating for more than 20 years, and we propose to upgrade the STTS, improve its environmental installations, ventilation and air scrubbing system, washing facility and wastewater treatment facility. We also propose to install a bulky waste treatment facility so as to facilitate the easy transportation of bulky waste to the landfills. And by breaking up the bulky waste, there is a better chance of recovery. We consulted the Sha Tin DC, the Environment and Hygiene Committee under the Sha Tin DC, and they have no objection. They have expressed concerns towards the environment and the traffic and transport issues related to the STTS. With your blessing, we will go to the PWSC and FC for approval. With the funding from the FC, we will award our contract in October this year. And this will be a design, operation, and build contract. Those who are interested to ask questions, please raise their hands. Mr. Tony Chair. Of course, we support this project. There is very effective outcome with regard to refurbishment and upgrading of the SCTTS. It's an operating transfer station, and it will continue to operate while undergoing refurbishment and upgrading. And this is reflected in the cost. Apart from raising certain facilities, the transfer station has to continue operation even during the upgrading process. So there will not be any problem in respect of running in or conversion. It is very important because the transfer station is much needed. I have a question in respect of paragraph 13. It said that it is exempted from the environmental impact assessment ordinance. And I know that paragraphs 14 and 15 gives further explanation. Many terms and conditions are added to the contract so that the STTS complies with the relevant restrictions and regulations. A lot of the conditions are related to the construction process. But what about the operation of the STTS? So that those living nearby, in particular those who feel the smell nuisance, can be addressed, and such nuisance can be removed. I hope the administration will pay attention to the LCVs. The LCVs are running in the streets all the time. And we find the LCVs very dirty. In para 14 is said that there will be an improvement to the vehicle scrubbing facility. I hope that this is not only limited to this station. It should also be applicable to other stations. Now, there are LCVs with concealed compartments, but some of them are still very dirty and smelly. I just hope that you can deal with that, and I hope you can provide with us further information. There are 3 questions, and I'll answer the first one first. The original contract was expired on the in 2009, and we had the experience of handing over, and we also in the coming year there will also be a handover, and if you approve the funding, then we can be more exact and detailed in writing up the terms, and I hope that you will support our proposal. As for the performance of the RCVs, Dr. Chan can speak on this. As for the operation of the STT, during the operation, the transfer station operator has to comply with the conditions in terms of air emission, water discharge, and smell restriction. They cannot haphazardly discharge foul water. As for LCVs, we will install better washing facilities, and we also have an air scrubbing system to make sure that the LCVs will not be wet while they leave the station. And we also have an improved air filtering system. In fact, the proposal was brought before the Sha Tin District Council, and we supported that. Recently, it was also reported in the newspaper that the cleaning companies may queue up in front of the STTT, and that will be an added burden on the STTS. The STTS is now operated by a FEHD operator, and we therefore need some coordination with the FEHD. When it is open to private waste collectors, we will install a SMS system. We'll issue SMSs to the drivers about the condition of the STTS. If the station is full, if the station has something untoward, then the drivers will be informed to come later. In fact, there is space for the RCVs to wait. There are about 20 parking spaces. In fact, at the peak period, there were only 10 RCVs waiting. When we open up the STTS to the private waste collectors, if the STTS is full, we will inform the drivers by SMS. Now, this is to tie in with the change in operation of SCNT, which will not accept CND waste in the future. And that hinges on the coordination among the private waste collectors. Those in Zhangguanou, of course, hope that it can be dealt with early as possible. And the Sha Tin residents hope are worried that it will become a big problem. In terms of waste diversion, the majority of the service providers in Sha Tin using SCNT will come here. There are about 300 tons of commercial waste which will be brought here. We have conducted a pilot scheme. The majority of the contractors, waste contractors, have tested the system. Maybe AD Dr. Chan can further explain. Starting from last year, we have had regular meetings with the trade. We hope that the diversion system is orderly and gradual. We have conducted a pilot scheme in Sha Tin, and we know who are the private collectors who will bring the waste to Sha Tin, and we've explained that at the district council meeting. We expect that there will be 40 more RCV trips made to STTS. We have adequate capacity to deal with the reception of C&D waste, which were received by SCNT in the past. Dr. Lower Kwok. There is a point of concern in the paper, though I support the proposals. After reimbursement, refurbishment and upgrading, there will be installation of a bulky waste treatment facility. Furniture and also wooden boards will be crushed. I want to know the capacity. It's not just limited to wood. You also need to deal with non-timber materials. How advanced is it so that large pieces of waste can be cut into smaller pieces? And I hope that there can be better arrangements for recycling. Can you further explain that? I'll leave you more time to explain that. As for the cutting of bulky waste, it can handle 150 tons per day.
Currently in West Kowloon, we have plans to install this machine in May. For Sha Tin, it can deal with 150 tons. When it comes to bulk waste, they're mainly wooden pallets and also furniture. And normally there is no metal because the metal will be extracted for other uses. Say, for example, metal cabinets. They won't be transported here. But there may be small bits of metal, say, for example, the legs. And they will be separated. For pallets, they will also be shredded for recyclers to collect them. I asked if there is any follow-up arrangement for these treated material to be recycled, whether it is wooden furniture, pallets. How do you make sure that they will be moved from these centers for processing so that they are recycled? There is a standard procedure in place. Collectors are required to use a fair and open way to collect the waste, because we have to know whether the process is conducted in Hong Kong. We will ask the contractors to have an open tender exercise to select the collector to ensure that the materials are properly collected and recycled. We should strongly support this, and it should be further promoted so that we have more such facilities to deal with bulky waste. And when it comes to waste, electrical or electronic equipment, we have the WEEE treatment. Well, in Hong Kong every day, a large number of bulky waste is disposed of. And if we have the facility, it's also a business opportunity. So it's a win-win situation, so I support it. Thank you. Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you, Chairman. For the STTS, when it comes to the refurbishment and replacement works, I think that it should be done as soon as possible. Before the STTS is fully open to private collectors, it will be best to have these works done. And it will be completed in the middle of 2017. But at the end of this year, the STTS will be open to private waste collectors. And as a result, the amount of waste they handle will increase. We are concerned that it will affect the capacity of the STTS, and it may increase the time for refuse collection vehicles. We'll have to wait. When the KTS was refurbished, it continued to operate. The tray told us that they had to wait for longer. In order to reduce the disturbance to the tray, will there be special arrangements during the refurbishment period? All the transfer stations will have to continue to operate during the replacement work. For some compressors, it will not be replaced at one go. So it will take longer for the replacement and refurbishment work to complete. So that's why we said middle of 2017. This will not affect the trade because the station is still open. Normal operation is continued. And there may be some inconvenience, say for example, vehicle cleaning facilities, maybe that when they are being replaced, there may be some small inconvenience, but it will not have an impact on the operation of the trade, and there won't be any environmental and transport implications to the area. Mr. Yik. Well, worst case scenario, what if there is a delay and vehicles will have to queue up? Do you have any special measures to help them? As Mr. Chen explained, in case vehicles need to queue inside the STTS, there is sufficient room for 20 vehicles to queue. And we found that even at the peak, 10 vehicles will queue, and when they go past the weighing bridge, even at peak hours, it will only take 10 minutes. So the flow is smooth. And if there is an emergency situation when all 20 spaces have been taken, there is a very good communication channel with the trade to warn them in advance, asking them to maybe come later or earlier to avoid the peak. And in some special situations, say, well, there is no more space, we will ask them to go to other stations. Mr. Yik, it's very important to keep the communication channels open. No one in the first round, and I would like to use my 4 minutes to follow up on this matter. Just now, the administration said that should there are problems with the stations, and then drivers will be notified by text. And during the year and a half, well, how much will the will it affect the capacity? Well, apart from notifying drivers through texts, what if something big happens? Will you have some backup plans to deploy the vehicles to other transfer stations? I noticed that there is a new machine that deals with waste furniture and wood waste. There will be on-the-site collection and recycling. I noticed that for overseas transfer stations, there are lots of treatment facilities at the station. Apart from this facility that treats wooden pallets and furniture, will there be some other facilities to deal with other materials? If you read paragraph 17, you will see that only 8% of construction waste can be reused. 92% of the waste will be disposed of at landfill. That is a common phenomenon when it comes to government works. Is there any way for you to reduce the amount of construction waste to a minimum? Because, well, the transfer station itself is an environmental protection facility. But if a lot of waste is generated and disposed of at the landfill, it's quite ridiculous. So, do you have any ways to make better use of the construction waste? Perhaps I did not make myself clear. When the machinery is replaced, well, we will use a backup one, say for compressor. We have a backup compressor, so the operation of the station will not be affected. The handling capacity will not be reduced as a result of the improvement works. If there is an emergency situation and the station cannot take waste, we already have a procedure in place. Say, for example, a traffic accident, and for the WKTS, it was closed because of a fire. There was an emergency plan in place to direct other vehicles to other stations or landfills. When it comes to treatment facilities, we have considered other treatment facilities, but because of the location of the station and the fact that most of the waste received are mixed, well, we think that would be better for the waste to be separated at source, because to extract useful material from a mixed amount of waste is not cost effective. And in paragraph 17, most of the waste will go to the landfill, because most of the construction waste are materials that cannot be reused. And of course, if it's material that can be reused, say for example some debris or some metal, we will give them to recyclers. Mr. Yik. Well, I am very concerned about service interruption during the improvement period. Well, you mentioned about independent assessor, penalties. What about the operation? Are there any ways to monitor to make sure it is environmental friendly? There is an independent assessor. The operation is very important as well. We compile reports for the contractors, say for example if there is safety, non-compliance. There will be penalties. And we report to district councils about the data we have collected, so that they will rest assured that when it comes to, say, noise or dust, all the requirements are met. We will submit this to PWSC. Before we vote, does any member need to make a declaration under Rule 84 when it comes to pecuniary interest? Well, I suggest that we will endorse this document. Item 6. framework proposal for implementation of municipal solid waste charging. We have with us the Secretary, Mr. Wong Kam Sing, and Deputy Director of the EPD, Mr. Howard Chan, and Political Assistant, Mr. Michelle Au, Assistant Director of the EPD, Mr. Samson Lai, and also from the EPD, Principal Environmental Protection Officer, Dr. Alan Lam. I will ask the official to take us through the paper before members ask questions. If you want to ask questions, please raise your hands first. Well, after we have discussed on this matter, we will have to consider whether to endorse it for the ESC because it involves the creation of 2 posts. Mr. Wong, are you going to take us through the paper? On the 16th of December last year, the Council for Sustainable Development published a report about its recommendations on how to implement quantity-based municipal solid waste (MSW) charging in Hong Kong. We welcome this report, and at that time, we said that we would actively follow it up and study the recommendations. We're happy to give you a further report in relation to the framework proposal. I would like to once again thank everyone who have participated in the consultation of the SDC. I also thank the chairman, Mr. Bernard Chen, and all the members of the SDC. This is challenging. In 2012, during the public consultation, although there was mainstream support in relation to the quantity-based charging scheme to induce behavioral change, and at that time, there are different views in society about the implementation details. There are also reservations. The SDC used a bottom-up and stakeholder-led approach to study into the relevant issues in relation to the implementation of MSW charging. And the work was invaluable to the way forward. Most people think that by household buyback is the most direct and the best approach to provide an incentive to reduce waste. This is a complicated issue with far-reaching implications, so we should proceed with caution. We have to be fully prepared about the difficulties that may appear in the implementation period. In order to achieve the objective of waste reduction through waste charging, we have to ensure that all the details are properly in place, and we also need the cooperation of the entire society. Last year, we got the support from the LegCo to create one supernumerary directory post for 3 years to lead the work of waste recycling. We also have other measures, say for example the producer responsibility schemes and the 18 community waste collection stations, etc. When it comes to the waste charging scheme, it's complicated. We propose to create 2 supernumerary directory posts to lead and supervise the relevant work. You'll find the justifications in the paper. I ask members for their support so that we will be able to make go to the ESC and the FC. We will happily take questions and explain about the work in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Chen Kin-po. Thank you, Chairman. My question is about the framework. At the Environment Panel, I proposed that for a 4-person household, the annual charge should not be more than $300 per hour, per year. In your paper, your proposal is $30 to $44 per month. For a 3-person family, the level is on the high side. I know that that's the result of public consultation. How confident that your fee is acceptable to the public? The SDC has also proposed that people who are lack means should be given help, but it doesn't support exemption. If exemption is given, these people will have no incentive to reduce waste. It seems that there is no proposal. You cannot waive the waste charging a fee for CSSA recipients, those who have financial difficulties. How are you going to help them? Mr. Wong. The SDC has conducted very wide and in-depth consultation in the community, and I do not repeat what they have got. Now we ask the SDC to conduct this public engagement exercise because we want a broad and in-depth discussion with the public. Now, if it is fee charging, it must be affordable. It will not be too expensive, but there must be an incentive to encourage people to cut production of waste. Our proposal is about $35 to $45. Now, if they can increase recycling and reduce waste, then what they pay will be less. We pitch it at this level because it is closer to public opinion. If one can reduce waste, then one will pay less than the level we mentioned in the paper. We will further look into that when we draft the bill. As for low-income families who need help, the report in the SDC has highlighted this point as well. We will look into that as well. We can further discuss that in depth. Mr. Chen, my next question is this. Are the work proportional to creating the post? Is there enough work to do? Before we make any proposal, we have considered the workload of the EPD colleagues and the nature of their work. In our paper, we have provided the explanation. We will look at the portfolio of the existing DD and AD. They have no additional time to deal with the necessary manpower and time required to implement the municipal solid waste charging scheme. The AD will lead the working group, and there are 8 colleagues under the AD. And the DD will not just look at MSWC. He or she will also look at the review or supervise the review of C&D waste charging review, the fuel bank or fuel banks, and also the timber, or rather the community green stations. In fact, their work is complementary. Mr. Christopher Chung. In the Eastern District, there are 3 buildings in the Eastern District, which were included in the pilot scheme. I thank the EPD for including the Eastern District in the pilot scheme. They have agreed that the charging should be pegged to quantity. It depends on what you mean that. If you just charge $30 per month, now after the scheme is in place and then after a lot of publicity, they have reduced the production waste, and they cannot make full use of the garbage bags you provide. Say, for example, in my family, we just cook once every 4 or 5 days. We cannot make full use of the bags. But for the housewife next door, she may cook every day, and then the number of bags given to her will be more than what is given to me. Now, can we return the plastic bags if we cannot make full use of them? And after another round, after one round, will you provide certain incentives so that they will further reduce waste? Mr. Wong. I thank Mr. Chong. In respect of the pilot scheme, and we do have participants from the Eastern District, big housing estates from the Eastern District. Whether we mechanically impose a charge or distribute plastic bags, that's not the proposal of the SDC. The bags will be distributed according to the need. It may not necessarily be 1 bag per day. The households do have a choice. Like Mr. Chong, he may just need 10 bags per month, and then we'll charge him the cost of 10 bags. And that is an incentive. Say if 30 bags, $30. If you just get 10 bags, then you pay $10. That's the fair arrangement. This is the incentive of waste charging. They pay according to the waste they generated. In drawing up certain codes of practice, we will deal with this. The DD. We agree that we need to enhance the efforts in recycling. We need to enhance incentive of recycling. We therefore have the community green stations. NGOs operate these stations. They contact with the resident groups to promote recycling schemes, and they also provide incentives for participation. They have the barter system. They also have shopping coupons to give incentive to participants. Mr. Kenneth Leung, concerning the D3 post, it is a supernumerary post. If this director can complete, this DD can complete his work within 3 years, will you be able to distribute some of his work to other colleagues within the 3 years? The second question is on the charging framework. Food waste account for about 40% of municipal waste, and there are 7 to 80% of water in food waste. will you provide incentive to make households to segregate food waste? There can be a separate bag for food waste. Will you consider that, or do you think it is too complicated? You only charge according to weight or per bag. Mr. Leung has 2 questions. The first question can be answered by my colleague, and I answer the second question. With regard to food waste, we have to consider how are we going to handle the food waste separated from other wastes. Do we have adequate treatment facility at the final end to make use of food waste? That's a challenge facing Hong Kong. In other countries like Canada, they can have a compost machine in the backyard. In places where there is a lot of animal husbandry business, they can make use of compost and food waste. But as for Hong Kong, we need to wait for the large integrated waste treatment facility to turn waste into energy. Some housing estates at present do have treatment facilities for food waste. They can do it on the spot. They can also do it after collection. And then they can collect the food waste and then bring the food waste to the new territories where the operators can turn food waste into feeds. We do not have adequate facilities at present. In Taipei, in the first year, when they had waste charging scheme, they were unable to deal with food waste as well. In the initial phase, we may find difficulties with regard to the proposal, but in the long term, we are moving towards that. Mr. Leung.
副局长。
Deputy Director. We reckon that when it comes to the preparatory work, working out the implementation details, drafting of the law, there will be a lot of work in the coming 2 to 3 years. We'll continue to review the posts we have. The posts under consideration is for preparatory work only. In relation to the future actual manpower demand, we will have to conduct a review. When it comes to the D2 and D3 posts, in the first 2 to 3 years, what is the division of labor? Any overlapping? It seems that most of the time D3 post is mainly dealing with municipal waste. But what actually does it do? Well, D3 post will be responsible for high-level coordination, say for example among departments and stakeholders. But the D3 is not just about the quantity-based MSW charging. It also oversees the work in different districts and the community green stations as well. So the scope of his duty is wider than the D2 post. Ms. Kwok. I would like to ask about the creation of the posts. How is it related to the FEHD? There will be a lot more work to be taken up by the FEHD, and there will be new work as well, say for example distribution of bins. The work is currently under the department. Is it going to be taken up by this post as well? Ms. Court is right. The FEHD will take up the important preparatory work. This year there are 3 non-directorate posts created at the FEHD to take up the preparatory work. There is an interdepartmental working group led by the director of the FEH. Through this interdepartmental working group, the implementation plan will be formulated. I would like to ask, when it comes to separation at source and collection at source, you have explained, but members of the public may think, well, of course, when it comes to charging, I will reduce the amount of waste, and I will separate the waste as far as possible. But taking reference from other places, there are legislations stating that recyclable items cannot be put in the designated garbage bags. Will you include this in the Hong Kong scheme? The cities that implement the quantity-based municipal charging, they usually do it by phases. They put in place a framework and legislation to encourage waste reduction and recycling. At the same time, there will be a recycle chain to enable separation. There will be legislation, say for example, prohibition order to prohibit certain materials being disposed of at landfills. The WEEE scheme has a similar framework. These waste electronic and electrical items cannot be disposed of at landfills. We will take it step by step. At the beginning, there won't be mandatory separation at source. What if the public would like to reduce waste? Well, what can they do? There are only the community green stations. I don't expect you to ask the public to take the recyclable materials to these green stations. So how can these stations help with waste recycling? We will put in place supporting measures to help collection and recycling. The policy address mentions about the enhancement of the clean recycling schemes. There will be apps available to tell members of the public where these collection boxes are. There are over 7,000 of them over the territories. And in relation to the community green stations, our efforts will be strengthened. And there is also the recycling fund. There are different measures to support collection and recycling of waste at different parts, at different stages. In principle, I support this MSW charging scheme. I have 3 questions. First of all, can you tell me again the timetable? When will it start? Will there be a transition period? I see that there is a creation of posts, but it's mostly high-ranking officials. But what about frontline officers? Who's responsible for it? The EPD? Well, for the smoking ban, we have the Tobacco Control Office. So in the future, who will be responsible for supervising frontline officers to enforce implementation? We see that with the trend of waste disposal is on the increase. It's not decreasing. And I see from the EPD figures that the latest figure for recycling has dropped. How can you, are you confident that the trend will be reversed? You only mentioned about charging. Of course, I agree with the direction, but there are concerns that it may backfire or it may not be as effective as you hope it would be. Thank you for the 3 questions. I will first answer the 3rd question. The example of similar cities show that there is a marked reduction in the total amount of waste disposed of. When it comes to the recycling waste rate, well, it can't be too high. Even for Japan, which is doing it quite well, the recycling rate is only 20%. So we're only looking at a reasonable recycling rate. We don't aim at an unrealistic high one. When it comes to the timetable, of course, we would like to implement it as early as possible. Quantity-based MSG charging scheme is quite a tough scheme. But you must understand that it takes time to plan and implement. Say in Taiwan, it involves the entire municipal government and the mayor. It's very complicated. What we can say is that we hope that we will be able to finish with the legislation within this term of the government. When it comes to the transition period, during the transition period, charging will start. It's just that there may be different options for the scheme to be more easily implemented. Can I ask the Secretary to give us more information about estimate of implementation, say, for example, about completion of legislation and the period of transition? I'd like to answer. Please be brief. The creation of posts is related to preparatory work. There are also non-directorate posts. We will do it through redeployment. There are altogether 21 people taking up the work. When it comes to the future implementation, we will only know how much manpower we'll need when all the implementation details are in place and where they will be, say, for example, under the EPD or under the FEHD or where. Mr. Porter. When it comes to law enforcement, I would like to say something, and I'd like to hear from the Secretary. In more advanced countries, I noticed that the amount of waste has dropped, but at the same time, there are people who will sneak out in the middle of the night to take out the trash, and the number of bins in the streets has decreased. Well, we have visitors problems, and as a result, there is a tense atmosphere in our communities. Would this be a sensitive issue in Hong Kong? I support the scheme in its general direction. But usually, it succeeds only when there is a confidence in the government and when there is a high quality of people in society. But nowadays in Hong Kong, there are lots of non-cooperation movements. Given our current atmosphere, how do you estimate? Well, what is our chance of success? When implementing the quantity-based charging scheme, they will also review the number of bins in streets. That is the experience from overseas cities. The design of the bins would also be changed as well. Say, for example, making the opening smaller. And in tourist areas, the distribution of bins may be different from residential areas. This is to strike a balance. I thank Mr. Jie for his support. We have to enhance civic awareness. There will be some different campaigns, say clean recycling, to enhance awareness and also to encourage them to cooperate.
Through my contact with different green groups and also the citizens at large, the majority of them are supportive of the general direction. Some may have the worry about fly tipping. In some civilized societies, after such a policy is introduced, there is such a phenomenon. But according to the experience of these cities, there is a substantial benefit arising from municipal waste charging, and their experience are worth our consideration. We adopt a multi-pronged approach. We have the law, we have publicity, and we have the ancillary facilities. Now in overseas communities, they are more patriotic, but in Hong Kong, it seems that if the government proposes one direction, then the people just go the other direction. Have you assessed this political risk? Yes, we can take note of this. Dr. Low, Thank you, Chairman. I understand Mr. Poche's worries, but I think we should trust the people, and the non-conforming citizens belong to the minority. You cannot assume that the majority are not cooperating. When I go overseas, I visit supermarkets and also residential areas and try to assess the people's living conditions. In Tokyo, the population is very dense. They have recycling points. Just a small corner. Say a certain day of the week for collecting paper, a certain day of the week for collecting other recyclables. They also charge according to garbage bags. Of the waste separation, there can be good recycling. Mr. Wong said that legislation has to be done step by step. While conducting waste charging, there should be a very substantial promotion of waste separation. People feel that separation of waste, after separation, the waste is just going to the landfill. There is no point of doing separation. But if you have a good supply chain for waste recycling, even if there is no law to compel them, many citizens are willing to participate in recycling. You need to promote recycling with much greater efforts. The second question has also been touched on by the DD in its answers. The focus of discussion was on garbage bags, on the collection of domestic waste from households directly, but there is little discussion on subsequent steps of handling waste. In some of the later paragraphs, it said that it will be handled by the private collectors, and there will also be gate charges. It may be very difficult to implement this. Say, there is a point which has not been discussed: C&D waste and commercial waste. How are they to be distinguished? I hope you can speak on your ideas about it. Mr. Wong, I'll answer the first part, and then my colleagues will answer the second part. I agree with the member that we should step up our efforts in terms of promoting recycling. In overseas cities, they do not collect recyclables every day. Yet in Hong Kong, there are 7,000 recycling points. Homes in Hong Kong are small, and the households may have to clear their recyclables every day. We'll step up our efforts in the clean recycling scheme. People put even very dirty recyclables into the recycling bins so that other clean recyclables become filthy and have to be deposited at the landfills. We therefore need to strengthen our efforts in this regard, and there is also a recycling fund to deal with the subsequent measures. The DD. As for gate charging, this is nothing new. We have already got this. There is gate charge of C&D waste and charge at transfer stations. The waste producers are usually business firms, and they get waste collectors, private waste collectors, to help them out. So they are familiar with the system. Mr. Frankie Yik, I want to follow up the point raised by Mr. Chung, which is incentive. In fact, we are paying the garbage bags through our management fees. If you want to encourage people to use to give out less waste, but you don't accept any return of plastic bags. Say if you charge $1 per bag, when people return the bags to you, you may give $2 or $3 in order to give incentives to people to reduce waste reduction. Will you consider that? Para 9 has raised a number of problems if waste is collected by a management company. Is there a viable mode in your test and pilot scheme? If you leave everything to the management company, you cannot do much, because the management companies are not law enforcement agencies, and they just do not deal with the disposal of waste very conscientiously. Say, I just repeat the same pattern, and when the next household see me doing the same, they will not cut any waste production. As for charging according to bag and household, by bag and by household, if they use less bags, they will save money. That's the general direction. Apart from legislation, we will work with the management companies on how to achieve that. That's the general direction. We want to provide an incentive to reduce waste. In the pilot housing estates, there was such an arrangement. The DD. In April last year, we tried out the scheme in 7 housing estates of different social backgrounds. The role of the PMC is very important. They come into contact with the households. They can organize the households to reduce waste. In Amor Garden, the OC provided very strong leadership. The publicity and the explanation given was very good, and there was very enthusiastic participation. In other housing estates with less enthusiasm, the outcome was also different. As a waste collection, in some housing estates, the pattern of more elderly residents are different from that of the younger households. We cannot say there is a general rule. One proposal is that bag by household is the ultimate target, but some housing estates may need more time to achieve that, and therefore there can be an interim package. And we also need to step up our efforts on involving the stakeholders. And we have stakeholder seminars at different stages to consider the best practice code so as to address different situations. Mr. Kwok Wai Kang. The paper mainly seeks to add 2 posts. With the implementation of a new scheme, there is a need to add manpower. I support that in principle. But I'm concerned about the nature of work and also the effectiveness. Well, the scheme is well intended. We are lagging behind quite a lot. In the year 2000, i.e. 15 years ago, Taipei started the waste charging, and in South Korea about 20 years ago. I hope we can catch up. Have you learned the experience of these 2 places so that we can achieve within a shorter period of time? I have the impression from the Bureau that quantity of waste is attached to cost, and therefore imposing a charge will change behavior. But is it directly proportional? I really have doubt about it. People are concerned about the fee. People are also concerned about the meaning of participation. After recycling, after separation of waste, can that really help to lengthen the usage of landfill and also help promoting sustainability? People are concerned about the related facilities. How can you strengthen separation at source? If you just provide a single plastic bag after you've collected the waste, will you then separate the waste? It will be very messy. I've heard that some groups in the private sector said that they wanted to separate waste, but it's very messy, and there is a lot of filth in the bottles, and even if you got a bottle, you have to wash the bottle thoroughly. And that's really difficult. Are there adequate preparation to deal with separation? If you can't deal with waste separation, then you really will have discounted your efforts. Do you have adequate measures to deal with these problems? What are the expected problems? What can be solved or what cannot be resolved? Mr. Wong. I agree with Mr. Wong concerning the challenges. We need to enhance people's awareness. We need the cooperation of the people. The issue is on waste separation at source, and the second point is on clean recycling. We need facilities. I thank the members of support. We have added manpower to work on recycling. They have started their work. We have a group of colleagues who have started their work. And we are focusing on clean recycling. Before we introduce waste charging, we will step up efforts to promote separation at source and waste recycling. Or clean waste recycling. Dr. Kenneth Chan. The Civic Party supports the user pays principle. We therefore are willing to see the early implementation of the municipal waste charging scheme according to quantity. You can see that the paper is rather general. Charging by quantity by household, increasing incentive, reducing waste at source, so on and so forth. Yesterday, I had a chance to talk to the DD and his colleagues. What we have is preparatory work before a preparatory stage. This is to create two posts to do the work. There is no reason to oppose because we are facing a big challenge in respect of municipal waste, and we don't want another incinerator, nor do we need a new landfill. This is a lazy way out and a bad way out. And we are glad to see that the administration will implement the scheme, but you need to explain the scheme to us in much greater details. You need to create posts to deal with the legislation, the drafting of legislation to set up the fee charging mechanism, but we have yet to see the devil in the details. If we say we supported your scheme, we're just speaking out of our emotion. I share the view of the members.
Well, in relation to the interdepartmental working group, I hope the Education Bureau will be involved because this is something to do with education as well. From my discussion with government officials, I understand that there is a level of involvement at schools as well. But if the Education Bureau is not always there, then it will not be as effective because they play an important part. Second part is that for the entire period, the 3 years, you have to show us confidence building. From the experience of plastic bag levy, well, it will backfire because at first it was thought that it was going to be very effective, but it backfired because the learning curve is not just a straight line. It may bounce back. For the first round, people would like to try it out. In the second round, people will be more serious. The confidence has to be built and difficulties overcome. Say, for example, management difficulties. And you have to be able to tell what households would do when the charging starts. And you have to regularly report us your progress. During the pilot scheme of the SDC, there was insufficient transparency. Well, participating participating estates may know, the green groups may know, but not other people. Or can I have a little bit more time? Perhaps the waste per capita would be reduced to 1 kilogram. This can be set as a clear indicator and used as a benchmark. Apart from the increasing scale of charging, you may also consider that when the waste disposal is below the limit, say for the level, say for example 1 kilogram per capita, then charging may be waived. Next, Mr. Michael Tian. The New People Party certainly support the MSW charging scheme, and as a lot of members said that we seriously lag behind in relation to illegal dumping of waste. Well, I understand that the openings of bins will be made smaller to stop people from using it to dispose of their trash without buying the prepaid designated bags. But I do believe that Hong Kong people are civilized. If you make the opening smaller, then people will just put these waste in smaller bags. But the fact is, if you're seen doing it, people may criticize you and you will feel ashamed and you won't do it again. Some people will go out to spend money. Say, for example, they buy snacks in shops. You said in overseas cities, the number of bins will be reduced, and you also said that for residential areas that will be the case, but for tourist areas the extent of reduction may not be as big. But when it comes to shops, we will specially choose locations that is at the junction of streets. Well, I hope that in the future the result won't be restaurants trying to get a place near a bin. Well, when someone has bought something and if there are no bins around, what is that person supposed to do? In Korea, it's successful because citizens will carry a bag with them and put the waste in. I don't know when, Secretary, you think that it will happen in Hong Kong. How many years? If you reduce the amount of bins, you will have to be very careful, because it will have an adverse impact on tourism, and it will be inconvenience to people. People may not buy snacks or eat in the street unless they have got a bag with them. So are you serious when you talk about the reduction of number of bins? Let me say this. Well, we have to be very careful in the formulation of implementation details. That's why we need the manpower to thoroughly consider everything. That's the general direction. Details are important too. We need to have a discussion in society to work out the details. But that's not my question. We have to end this meeting at p:30. We have the budget today. And there are people in the first round and the second round as well. I will extend the meeting by no more than 15 minutes. Ms. Sitho. Well, I heard from the Secretary that we should not blindly pursue a high recycling rate. I'm very concerned because I'm afraid that he will simply not try to achieve any recycling rate. Yes, waste reduction is important. So is recycling. I don't see any information about separation of food waste. If we're talking about clean recycling, well, there may be waste charging, but food waste can be separated as well. I don't see any information in the paper. Please explain. I believe that when it comes to illegal disposal of waste, it happens now because for old buildings there is no management companies and they may not engage a cleaner to dispose of the waste. Well, I don't think that people will break the law simply every day simply to save the dollar or 50 cents. Perhaps you will consider setting up a management mechanism for these old buildings to sort out their waste disposal problems and waste separation issues. I think it will be more effective than the charging scheme for these old buildings. Yes, there may be a need for different forms of charging, given the different types of management styles. Well, you also talk about charging by household, and is implemented by management companies. I believe that for middle class residential estates, charging them $30 a month will not encourage them to reduce waste. Perhaps these families will make it an incentive for their domestic helpers to separate waste and reduce waste by giving them the charging saved. I agree that you need a team, this working group with about 30 people to take this up. But how do you coordinate with other policy bureaus to achieve the targets of separation and waste charging? You will have to give us the information. And timetable is also very important. We've been talking about this for 5 years. The volume of waste has been increasing, and we're still waiting for measures to tackle this. We have an interdepartmental working group. The coverage is expanding. The HAB is also included. For clean recycling, say glass bottles are not cleaned and it has soiled the other materials in the other bottles in the recycle bin. And that's why we have the expansion of the clean recycling campaign. That should go first. We have a blueprint for food waste. We have to increase the opportunities for the recycled food waste to be used before we can talk about collection and recycling of food waste. Well, using charging to induce behavioral change is the trend. We all agree with that. That's why you have a team set up to deal with the legislation and other work. The DP agrees with that. But I'd like to say that from what we've seen, the Environment Bureau doesn't have as much attention as the other bureaus. For the newly created to be created D2 and D3 posts, where did they stand? Will other departments help to implement the decisions made by these two posts? Or is only a way for them to pass the buck?
Clean recycling is also important. In fact, it's very common for Taiwan to achieve that, is to separate recyclables from non-recyclables. Among recyclables, there are many things, and such recyclables are dealt with by by recycling stations or recycling points. In your waste charging scheme, will you adopt such a concept or approach so that you can at least separate recyclables from non-recyclables? My final question is this. The most difficult bit is about logistic or the logistic system. I know that the Bureau has the green stations, the community green stations. The housing department and FVHD can order their contractors to take up further duties, and that is to handle waste separation. Would that be the task of these new officials? Is the waste separation at source, according to understanding, their situation is similar to ours. They hope that the waste producers, i.e. the citizens, will separate the waste at source. Say, when the recycling vehicle comes, when the waste LCV comes, then they will hand over the waste that is not recyclable, and then they will also hand over paper, which is recyclable, and also other recyclables. I think we are doing the same. We'll be doing the same. In fact, we have got the support of the Star Chamber, and other departments have agreed to support us. We have an interdepartmental working group, including the HD and also FVHD. The D2 and D3 directorate officers are responsible for directing and supervising the scheme, and the working group will deal with interdepartmental matters. Two more members want to have a second round, 2 minutes each. Mr. Charles Mock. Paragraph 15 refers to a technical system or the technical systems. It refers to the fee charging system, the weighing, the weight bridges, but you have left an important point, and that is the separation of waste within the buildings. Mr. Wong brought us to Korea. They adopt a simple technology. They use carts, smart carts, in disposing waste. In the whole district, there is a central processing facility in Korea. Now you say there will be interdepartmental cooperation. The housing department builds public housing, and also in your land sale, will you impose a condition to deal with these problems? Through this high-level committee, the departments can support the move so that you do not need to rush it through hastily so that there are many loopholes. If such facilities are also available in the commercial buildings, that will help to solve some of the existing problems. Will you deal with that? A simple answer. Making good use of technology and making use of design of new buildings are taken into account in this municipal waste charging scheme. It is a general direction. Dr. Lo Wai-kwok. As for creation of posts, I support the proposal. But I cannot cast this vote for you at the ESC because I've applied for more than half a year and I have not been able to join the ESC. As for the framework, there may be a question which the DD doesn't have time to answer. There may be a loophole if there is a difference in fee charging. There are many commercial and residential buildings. If commercial waste is less, charges less, then will a substantial amount of domestic waste become commercial waste? Now the SDC considers that the gate charge of $300, $400 per ton is too high. But if it is compared to $30 or $40 per bag, that is similar. So the charging for domestic waste and commercial waste are consistent. There will be no difference. Members who want to ask questions have already asked their questions. If there is no objection, I propose to submit this paper to the ESC for consideration. Any objection? The Deputy Chairman. Sorry, speaker's not coming through. I just want to remind the Bureau that when you go to the ESC and the FC, please answer these questions because we may not have enough time today to receive the answers, all the answers. I don't see any objection to submitting this paper to the ESC. So be it. Meeting is adjourned.